What's up and welcome to Ahead of the Curve. This is your host, Jonathan Gelner, and thank you so much for joining us. Today's podcast is powered by Stick and Ball TV, the baseball and softball streaming platform. If you haven't gotten the chance to check out Stick and Ball, they've got some awesome stuff going on. Weekly videos from some of the top coaches in the world in baseball and softball. And if you've got a growth mindset, it's a no-brainer. Check them out at Stick and Ball TV or on the Stick and Ball TV mobile app. Today's episode is sponsored by What About Baseball. It's no secret that we live in a world with constant electronic distractions. Families are spending less time together and kids often can't look up from their devices. But What About Baseball is here to help. What About Baseball is a family-owned, baseball-centric business whose focus is on providing the best baseball toys, games, and accessories to bring friends and family back together to bond over our great sport of baseball. Starting with the best-selling Classic Edition board game, What About Baseball offers fun and exciting gameplay for fans of all levels, from beginner to expert. Whether you want to teach someone about the basics of counting balls and strikes, or deciding if you should call a suicide squeeze, What About Baseball's Classic Edition board game is a proven winner and has the reviews to prove it. Even better, it's also made right here in the USA. What About Baseball would like to reward Ahead of the Curve listeners 20% off of their best-selling board game and free shipping. Go to whataboutbaseball.com/curve to get your special offers. Today's show features Matt Parker, head baseball coach at Eastern Junior College in Wilburton, Oklahoma. Matt started in 2008 as the head coach. In year one, they were 25-23. Last year's COVID year, they were 19-4, nationally ranked, and leading the league when they were shut down. And this year, they are 26-3, nationally ranked, and leading the league at the time of this recording. Before Eastern, Matt took over the Oklahoma Wesleyan baseball program and took it to new heights, breaking records and turned the Eagles into an NAIA regional power and national contender. They won 4 conference championships, 2 NAIA championships, and he was a 3-time Conference Coach of the Year and 2-time ABCA Region Coach of the Year. So on the show, we talk about how he implemented a championship vision to 2 programs on 2 different levels, which includes standards on and off the field, consistent reflection, and building players on 3 levels: on the field, off the field, and in the classroom. You're going to love this episode with Matt Parker. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan, I appreciate you having us, man.
Of course. And so I'm really excited because, one, you're in my neck of the woods and you guys are doing a tremendous job this year. And I think that the text that you sent me, you guys are 26-3 and rolling at the time of this recording. And it's been really interesting because, you know, I actually wanted to go to Eastern whenever I was in high school. And that was when AT was there and he recruited better players than me. And they were very successful. So I've always had like an affinity towards Eastern baseball because I know that they're a really good program in a really good region, and you've continued that success as well. But I do want to kind of rewind a little bit to year one, which was a couple of years ago. You were very successful. You and your staff were very successful at Oklahoma Wesleyan, and then you decided to make the transition to Eastern. And so tell us a little bit, and you could pick either one, which is Oklahoma Wesleyan or Eastern, but tell us a little bit about your vision when you started. So again, I don't know which direction that you want to go, but tell us a little bit about like that transition from being an assistant coach to head coach, and then like whenever you transitioned from a 4-year school to a 2-year school. So a lot of that is in there, but I'm going to let you roll with it, and then I'll kind of direct you from there. But excited, and let's hear what you have to say.
Sure, man. I appreciate it. Going from assistant coach to head coach, I'm an Arkansas guy, born and raised in Searcy, Arkansas. So, I'd made a quick trip around the world and was the recruiting guy at California Baptist University with Gary Adcock, right before coming back to Oklahoma Wesleyan. And, I was the assistant there. And I joked that when I took the job at Oklahoma Wesleyan, I was the boss, man. I was ready to be the boss. I was 27. I was the man. 30 minutes into my first day, I realized I was not the man, and I was not ready for this job. It was a lot easier to make decisions over there in the little chair than it was to make those head coach decisions. So I've since called and apologized to every head coach that I worked for. and said, man, I could have been a better assistant. I didn't realize you guys were actually trying to do all that stuff. I thought I was doing all that work and all of that. So I owe those guys a huge apology and thank you for letting me do what I did. But that was the big transition, was just realizing, how difficult it was, and like I said, being at 27, I thought I was ready and then was not ready, but luckily I'd been around some great head coaches and seen some things. So, I think there was an easier transition because I had great models and saw what guys did and how they did certain things. And, so we tried to obviously on the field, the answer is, what was the vision? Well, I came from California Baptist, where we made a trip to the World Series in 2010 and had a chance in 2011 to go back. And, I walked in Oklahoma Wesleyan and said the goal on the field was to win a national championship. And I think there were a lot of people that laughed and snickered and thought that was crazy, the 27-year-old guy. And, luckily for us, we kind of got things rolling relatively quickly there and had some great players that came along and made a couple trips back to the NAIA World Series and did some things there. So that was the vision. It was a long process to get there. On that, leaving Oklahoma Wesleyan and coming to Eastern again on the field, the goal stayed the same, was to try to win a national championship, and that's a lofty goal. And when you hear that, everybody goes like, well, yeah, that should be everybody's, but I think that is the goal. Sure, there's a lot more that goes into it off the field, and both in the classroom and then just personally, who they are. A lot goes into trying to win there as well, but making the transition from 4-year to 2-year was different. I enjoyed it. I'd been an assistant at Garden City Community College before. The biggest difference for me is, the 4-year school, you get to see those guys grow up. Some of them you get as 17 or 18-year-old kids, and they're with you 4, sometimes 5 years, and they're grown men and jobs, and some of them are engaged, at the time, and you really watch them grow up. The biggest change, obviously, at the 2-year school is, it's quick in and out. It feels like, 4 years seems like forever. I'm sure those guys would agree with, we were 4 years with Coach Parker. That was a blast. But 2 years here I feel like is really short. Seeing those guys in and out, and at junior college, 50% of your job is to recruit really good players. The other 50% of your job is to get them out of here, because if they come in and, man, they don't leave better, or they don't leave, then, we failed miserably as a junior college from a baseball standpoint. And obviously when they leave us, they have to leave in good standing academically. And, we can't just run a baseball factory. It is a lofty goal, because 50% of your teams, roughly 50% of your team's gone every year. So how do you continue to do that? And junior college coaches that have maintained success over long periods of time are really impressive. At the 4-year level, for the most part, I had helped teach in our system. It was I had 3 other classes to help me teach it. One class would leave and one new one would come in, and 3 years worth of guys were helping us teach it. So that's been a change, is trying to do that. And then also remember that they're young guys. Some of the best advice I got as an assistant at Garden City, one day I was the infield coach, and I came in and I was young. I was probably 23 or 4 at the time. And I came in, I was aggravated about the way our infield was playing. And, I did this and I did that. And, how did they not know this? And how did they, and finally the pitching coach, Ryan Sawyers, shared a desk next to mine or whatever. And he finally turned around and he was like, did you do that when you were 18? Like, did you make that play when you were a sophomore or a freshman? And I said, like, what do you mean? And he said, like, you're trying to ask those guys to do what you did as a senior. You remember yourself on the back end of your career when you were a good college player and you knew everything. And now you're trying to ask these freshmen to do that. And it was kind of the eye opener of, yeah, you know what, that is unfair to those guys. So trying to remember that, hey, we are dealing with freshmen and sophomores has been a change, versus that, that older guy that sometimes we got at the 4-year level.
Oh, that's really good. And that's an interesting question too, because again, once you feel like they have the system, then you have them for a year and then they're gone. And so I was joking with you a little bit off the mic of, you really maybe had to condense down a lot of the things that you did. So just tell us, besides what you have, was there anything in specifically that you were like, guys, we just can't do this. Like, we don't have enough time. And so we had to transition to this? Was there ever a moment that you had like that?
No, nothing that we've just taken out completely, where we just felt like we didn't have time, mainly because we felt like, our job at Eastern and hopefully, people that get Eastern players from us, hopefully they agree with this, is we want our guys to be exposed and prepared for everything. Sometimes I would get guys, when I was the 4-year coach, and we would have certain things, go on or happen or do or whatever, and they looked like they had never seen or heard that before. And I thought, man, what did you do for the last 2 years? And so, I've joked that as the 4-year guy, I probably said some bad things about junior college coaches. And part of that was I just didn't know what they had to go through and everything. But so then obviously when I became the junior college coach, it was like, okay, man, it's time to cash in on some of those things that I said. Otherwise, I gotta be quiet and I gotta go apologize to a lot of people for, things that I said. So we still try to cover just about everything. Our system is really similar. There are things that we have, like you said, condensed, where maybe we're not covering it quite as much, but we want them when they get to the next level. And somebody, they go over base running, or they go over, a bunt play, or they go over something. Sure, it may be a different bunt play, or it may be a different first and third, or it may be a different base running philosophy or offensive plan or something. But we want them to know that, like, hey, we've seen that. Same thing with like scouting report stuff. Justin Oney and Noe Rees, the two guys that have been with me. Noe Rees has been with me 8 years now. Justin Oney's been with us 4 years as our pitching guy, 1 at Oklahoma Wesleyan and now 3 here. I mean, those guys work their tails off on scouting report stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But we want to give our guys a lot of information because we know at the next level they're going to get that. And they're going to get a ton of information, and we want them to be prepared so that whenever coach whoever says, hey, this is what we do, they go, okay. And they don't look shell-shocked like, wait a minute, at junior college, we just took BP and ground balls. We just tried to change it a little bit, but keep it the same because we want them to be exposed to, hey, this is what 4-year baseball looks like, because it is slightly different with the amount of time that you get to spend with guys.
I really like that a lot. And so I guess you're leading right into my next question, which is I don't follow you guys as closely as I should, but I do follow you on Twitter, and I feel like every guy that you throw is like 95 plus. And so I say that jokingly, kind of, right? But just kind of walk us through, man, obviously recruiting good players, but I know 2 of them that were Wasso players, and they were not that. They were good players, but they weren't quite to the level of where you guys have gotten them. So just kind of walk us through that, because I've just been really intrigued by the amount of literally like 93 to 95 guys that you guys have, which is a rare commodity, but it seems like you guys have them in droves.
Sure. And I appreciate that. And, Twitter, we try to be active out there and promote our guys and get that out there. I think this year's probably just a perfect storm with COVID. We obviously, Christian McGowan was with us already and has developed, into that 93, 95, 94, 96, with some more there. And, we get Andrew Walling that transfers in from the West Coast through a buddy of mine. And, McGowan's headed to Texas Tech. Walling's headed to Mississippi State. David Sandlin's a guy that we recruited from Owasso. And really, David just worked like crazy. We thought he had the potential to throw harder. I think anybody that says like, hey, he was going to be 93, 95 and has shown a touch more, I'm not that good at my job to say that I saw that. But he's worked really, really hard. And I think the biggest thing for us, number one is that we do have, really good players that play really hard. I would like to think our program has a little bit to do with it. And, again, I was fortunate when I was the assistant at California Baptist. Gary Adcock had pitched at UCLA, been an assistant coach at UCLA, had been at Purdue, had obviously been at the highest level. And I felt like our pitching plan when I was there, we had something like 12 draft picks in my 3 years between the guys that we had recruited and the guys that played for us. And they've continued that, got one in the big leagues now, from California Baptist. And so I thought, man, I'm smart enough when I left there to ask / maybe tell Coach Adcock, hey, I'm going to take this pitching plan with us. It's a 1-page sheet of paper, that I'm sure has drastically changed on their side out there from now. But, we took that 1-page sheet of paper and turned it into an entire pitching booklet. We just kind of expounded upon it really and added this and taken that out, and changed some of the distance running that was kind of the thing, way back, at this point, it's been 10 years ago since I was at Cal Baptist. And so kind of changed it into more sprint work and obviously now the technology stuff is being added in with the Rhapsody and video stuff and things like that. So, we've added a lot of that. I think probably the biggest thing that our guys would say about our pitching plan and probably the development in their careers is just the consistency. I think that pitching packet, everybody gets their own. It's the framework. Hey, here's the framework of what we do day to day. Now from there, obviously, David Sandlin does things slightly different than Christian McGowan. Because they're two different arms. And sometimes you see a lot of people that have a great pitching plan, but everybody does the same plan. And everybody does the same throwing. And we just don't think that works for us anyway, because we feel like they're different arms and they have different needs, and some recover faster, so they need to throw more earlier after their outing, and some don't recover as well, so they need to take more time. And so for us, though, is once we kind of feel like we've got it honed in and develop, this works for that guy, then we really don't deviate from it a whole lot. It's a 7-day plan. We feel like our starters, they get 6 days rest, and we go every 7th day. And the whole plan is designed around, on that 7th day, them being the best version of themselves they can be. And you know what? Sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're not. And that's okay, because the very next day after that, we call that day one. Day one starts over. And now we're on to we're not living in the past. We're not, hey, great, you were good or you were bad, whichever. But now today's the first day of the next week, and if you're really good, okay, man, cool. You were good last week. Now we got to get on to how do we recover and how do we get better and how do we get on to being good again? Because, nobody needs a guy that, is good once a month or every couple of starts. We all need that guy that's good, every time we hand him the ball. And I think the biggest thing for the throwing plan is their bodies adjust to it, and I tell recruits all the time whenever we talk to them and, they want to know about the pitching plan or whatever there is, that, it's so organized and detailed and so just, like I said, individualized that ultimately, they kind of adjust to it. And the best thing I tell, a potential recruit is I said, hey, if you came here and you threw 90 pitches today and one of our guys threw 90 pitches today, tomorrow when we walked out there and I said, hey, man, how do you feel? The recruit's going to tell me, I'm sore here, I'm tight there, they're going to point to body parts. That's just human nature. That's the way every pitcher is. They're going to say well, I'm a little tight, and that's to be expected. You threw 90 pitches. But if I walk out there and ask one of the Eastern guys who have been on that plan and their body's adjusted to our 7-day plan, they're going to shrug their shoulders and say, I feel like day one. And they don't have to point to anything because their body knows this is what I'm supposed to feel like on day one. And then the next day I'm going to ask, hey, how do you feel? The potential recruit's going to again say, my shoulder's better, my back's still sore. Okay, our Eastern guy's going to say, I feel like day two, because their body has adjusted to that. So I think the health of our guys is the biggest deal. And then if anything ever on day two, day one, day two, day three, day four, whatever it is, feels out of line, that's when they say, hey, actually, coach, and then we're able to decide, you know what, man, maybe we threw more breaking balls in that outing than we wanted to. So we'll change that throwing for that week, or the pin will be a little different there. But I think the consistency and the organization of our throwing plan has really led to their development as pitchers. I think the biggest thing is sometimes people do see those big velocities, this year, and then everybody assumes that maybe they couldn't hit the backstop twice in a row. And the last thing we want here is to have a bunch of throwers. We work really hard to recruit a bunch of strike throwers. And then if the velocity increases, which typically does, then we think we have something special. We just feel like, pitchers and strike throwers that develop into velocity arms are better for us than trying to find, hey, man, that's a big arm, and then trying to get it to throw strikes, and so it doesn't work for everybody. And sometimes we gamble and try to see if we can do it just like everybody else does. But we try to start with the strike thrower. Sure, there's a whole host of things I could go into, from the pitching plan to the weights, and how we do that. And the breakfast stuff that we do, we have mandatory breakfast, and we try really, really hard to give them not just a junior college experience. Sometimes you hear people say all the time, well, it's just junior college. And I don't even know what that means, because I feel like that's we're running it at a second-rate deal, and it's not it. We like I said, we want our guys to feel like they're coached and given a maybe a Division I experience. And then when they leave here, they know what that looks like, and they know what that feels like, whether they go Division I, Division II, NAIA, Division III, whatever it is that they do there. We want them to know that they got a top-notch experience, in junior college as well.
No doubt. And, I think that, if I'm looking at it from the outside in too, from the experiences that they have in Wilburton, there is a lot of close knit stuff that they do together. I'm assuming just because it's like, I don't even know what the population is, but like 5,000, like maybe. And so I'm assuming that there's not a lot to do besides baseball, and there's not a lot to do in Wilburton. So they spend a ton of time together. Has that helped really shape, the culture and the standards and that close knitness that every coach is trying to do? You think that would be a part of it?
I do. When I took I joke that every job I've had, it's kind of been weird. I'm really kind of a small town Arkansas kid. Whenever it all came to be, and I took the job in Southern California, 60 miles east of Los Angeles. Both the head coach and the athletic director said, this isn't Garden City, Kansas. I mean, this is 60 miles east of Los Angeles, and and I laughed and said, like, yeah, it's fine. My wife and I can do it, and we did it. And then when I took the job, coming back to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, the athletic director and the president both said, now this isn't Southern California. I mean, this is, and I laughed and said, man, I can't get away from that, from that question. And then when I got ready to take the Eastern job, the president said, this isn't Bartlesville, Oklahoma. This is Wilburton. And I said, you know what? At the time that I took the Eastern job, my wife and I had twin, probably 10-month-olds, a boy and a girl. So I joked that, I said, from my wife and I standpoint, like, we're not looking for the nightlife. We're literally just trying to survive and go to bed every night with boy-girl twins that are 10-month-olds. Now they're 3.5, and we're still trying to survive. It's gotten worse because now they're mobile and they have opinions and they run faster than what 3.5-year-olds should run. But that's come up before in recruiting, about like, what do you do in Wilburton? And I laugh at that question because I think it's tremendous. I think it's awesome for us because if we recruit the right people that are truly serious about their career at the level that I'm serious about my career, that Noe Reeves and Justin Oney are serious about their career, if they're that serious about it, then Wilburton's the best place in the world you could be because there aren't a lot of distractions and there aren't a lot of things. People ask all the time, like, what do you do in Wilburton? We play baseball and we go to school. You know what? If you come in and you work both academically and athletically and personally, and man, you focus really, really hard in that 1 or 2 years that you're in Wilburton, man, you get to pick your next one. Like, you literally can. I mean, you get to turn down incredible places because they just didn't fit exactly what you wanted, and you get to pick, like, that's the perfect one for me. We work really hard not to recruit just the best players. I would lie to you if I didn't tell you we weren't trying to recruit the best ones, but more important than the best ones is, we're trying to find the right ones. It takes the right guy to play for me. We're honest about that. I can be difficult to play for because when a guy says, I want to be the best, I hear them say that. And then I work really hard over the next 2 years to hold them accountable to what they said they wanted to become. And I think players should do that for me. If I tell them, man, I'm going to give you everything I got for 2 years, if they're not getting it, then, man, they ought to be aggravated. You know what? I trusted this place and you and this coaching staff with my career, and you didn't give it to me. They should be aggravated. So when guys get here, we want them to work really hard, and we want to obviously give them everything we can possibly give them in a 2-year span so that whenever they get ready to leave, they do get to pick from a handful of tremendous places because they did their time right in Wilburton academically and athletically and personally.
No, I really like that a lot. And you're really leading me into my next question, which is about, we have standards, rules, behavior, and you've talked a lot about being a champion and giving your best. Now, is that, if I asked you the question, what are your standards, would you have something scripted out, or it's like, hey, we have championship behavior, we behave like champions, and that's it? Like, what do you tell prospective recruits whenever they ask you similar questions?
Easy answer is to say, we kind of laugh that we could have one rule, and the one rule could be don't do anything to embarrass the program. That's okay, great. Like, there you go, covers it all. And I think that's probably too cliche and too easy. For us, we just talk about, hey, when we recruit a guy, we recruit him based on 3 areas: academic success, athletic success, and then personal success. And then from there, obviously, there's standards within all of that. Academically, sometimes junior college gets that rap for being a baseball factory. That's all it is just baseball. And It's actually not true at Eastern. And we actually are honest in recruiting. We tell guys, hey, if that's what you're looking for, it's not us. Because I probably get after our guys more about the academic stuff than I do on the field. Because they all love the on the field stuff, right? That's why they came. It was like, I'm a baseball player. I hope everybody that plays for us plays 10 years in the big leagues. I typically remind them, just remember who you played for, remember where you played, and donate money back if you do play 10 years in the big leagues. The reality of that is, though, we probably aren't going to have that many that play 10 years in the big leagues. That's a difficult road. But you know what? We're going to have all of them are going to get out of college and have to supply for their wife or their family or their kids or be productive there. So you know what? We're serious about them all getting a degree, because that's gonna come in. We want them to have a plan. We don't want to put all the eggs in the baseball basket and then look up at some point and go, wait a minute, baseball's over and I don't have any plan going on. I'm a baseball coach. I love it. I've never had a different job. Never wanted a different job. The fact that people continue to pay me to coach baseball is wild to me, and I appreciate it. But you know what? I've got 2 degrees that hang on my wall. I'm not stuck coaching college baseball. And I don't ever want our guys to be stuck with something because they didn't have a plan. So we're serious about their academics, and they're going to go to class, and they're going to be on track. At the 4-year school, it was you're going to get a degree. Here at Eastern, most of our guys get the AA degree, but also some of them don't because they don't need it necessarily for the next step. But they're going to be on track when they leave here at whatever school they're going to finish that bachelor's degree. And we are serious about the academic side. They all love hearing, every recruit wants to hear about the athletic side. Well, how am I going to throw 95? I had a recruit recently that said, somewhere else guaranteed him 5 miles an hour on his fastball. What do I think? And I said, I think you should sign there. And the kid said, hold on, wait, what do you mean? And I said, man, I can't guarantee anything. I said, I just can't. I said, I can tell you that most of our guys do see increases. And, I said, but if you sign with us and then sit on the couch for the next, 10 months before you show up or whatever it is, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not that good at my job. I can't guarantee anything. And, I said, I can guarantee you that I'm going to work really hard and that we're going to push you and do all that stuff. And then from there, we'll see what happens. And, but I said, sorry, man, I can't guarantee anything. And I said, honestly, if I could guarantee something like that, I said, man, I'm a Cardinal fan. I said, I'd be in St. Louis making a heck of a lot more money guaranteeing 5 miles an hour on a guy that throws 100 than I would, some kid that throws 85. I laughed. I said, the Cardinals just pay better. And the kid laughed and said, okay, I get that. But I said, athletically, man, I can promise you that we're going to work really hard. And, when we go to the baseball field, the most important thing on the face of the earth is baseball. When we leave the baseball field, though, it's baseball, man. It's still a game. I'm fully aware, I think God's got a sense of humor. When he put my wife and I together, my wife was an ER nurse for the first probably 10 or 11 years we were married. She now is a nursing professor here at Eastern, and so when I go home and we lose a game in the 9th inning on an error or a can't bunt or something, and I have the worst day ever because of that. My wife comes home from the ER and, a drastically different bad day has occurred in the ER than what I have it as a baseball coach. And I quickly remember that, hey man, I'm a baseball coach. There's a lot worse things going on in the world than we lost a game or whatever there. So when we're at baseball though, man, I get it. I joke, that's the one ability God gave me. I go home and my wife says the sink's leaking. Can you look at it? I look at it and it's leaking. I don't know what she wants me to do about that, but it's leaking. So if I've got one ability, man, I got to work really hard at practice and work really hard to prepare our guys and to have them ready and make sure that their career, is the best it could possibly be. And that they become in 4 years, they're the best college baseball player they could become. When we leave the field, it goes back to, man, let's be the best student we can become. And then the third thing that we talk to a lot of guys about is just their personal success. And what is that? That's just who they are, not only during their time, in Wilburton or in college, but down the road too. Are they a good husband? Are they a good employee or an employer or a citizen or, just kind of who they are 10 years from now. I had a coach tell me one time that, we don't ever know whether we've succeeded until 10 years from now. We work really, really hard in all 3 areas, academically, athletically, and personally, just to make sure that they do develop. And we work really hard to recruit the right guys. So having kids of my own now has changed my opinion. I used to joke that when moms and dads would sit in my office and they would say, this is our baby, and, are you going to take care of him? And are you going to, I was always polite, but I also always thought like, oh, come on, like he's 18, he's fine. Like, I'm not going to go wake him up and, and all that stuff. And now that I have kids of my own, I take them to daycare every morning and drop them off and think, they better get all the goldfish they want at snack time, and you better really take care of them. And so now I can't imagine taking my two and after, working so hard for 18 years and then just, hey, dropping them off with somebody else and going like, hey, 18 to 22, it's the most influential time in their lives. Good luck. I think that's a big challenge and trying to help guide them through it, because some of our guys are on great paths when they get to us. Okay, our job is to make sure that they stay on that path. Some of our guys, maybe haven't had a path or have started down the wrong path. And okay, great, like that's fine too. Like we're all different. Our job is to get them, lined out, get them on the right path. And sometimes it's a model, just model the right behavior. That they see like from us as to how we carry ourselves and how we prepare for certain things and how we treat our wives, or people on campus and things like that. And so that way, then they look up, it may not happen during their time here. It may be after they leave here that they look back and go like, you know what, man, like Coach Parker and Coach Reeves and Coach Oney, those guys, like there's something about those dudes. Let me be more like that. And again, we're not perfect. Sometimes they see our flaws too. Man, all right, that was Coach Parker didn't handle that right. How do I change that? But we're serious, about all three. Kids just want to hear about the athletics, which is fine. That's the one I like talking about too. But we are probably more serious about academics and personal stuff than we are the baseball, because the baseball stuff's easy. It's a game and everybody loves that part.
No, I love hearing that. And I love again, the background and you talked about them seeing you as a husband and a father, and all of that just plays an enormous benefit, which I agree with you as well. So let's go ahead and get into the player development piece, so like the on-field piece, because I feel like you've done an awesome job describing kind of the off the field, what it looks like, what it feels like, and that's really and what you guys are looking for, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and switch gears and go into what your off-season program looks like. So if we were going to rewind back to, I don't know if you want to do COVID year, since you've been dealing with COVID at Eastern more than you've been not. But just kind of walk us through what you got, what your plan for the off season is. Just walk us through, they get to campus in August, and just take us up through the preseason of just, hey, these are the big pillars that we want to hit. This is how we do it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm going to skip the COVID stuff because I hope nobody needs a blueprint on that ever again. I hope we're done with that eventually. And all right, great, we're good, because we did have to modify some things, and it's been a challenge. Just like everybody has had that challenge of, how do you navigate that, and how do you build culture and team and all that while telling them to stay away from each other. I'll visit more on a normal year than anything. So yeah. Our guys, the biggest thing for me, like I said, when I took the job at Oklahoma Wesleyan, I was 27. I'm now 38. 38-year-old me looks at 27-year-old me and thinks, how did we ever win a game? And why would anybody ever listen to anything that I said? Fully aware that 48-year-old me is going to look at 38-year-old me and think the same thing. Like, what were we doing? So as we said today, our guys kind of get here in August, and the details in the organization is the biggest thing that we do. And I felt like that was the thing I had to do at 27. I'd been a decent assistant, had been around good coaches and been on winning programs. But, for me to walk in the door and say, this is how we do it, no questions asked, with no head coaching experience, I thought was a bad, I thought if somebody ever said, and I hate to say kids these days, like I'm not still a kid, but it's a different generation. People ask why a lot more now. And for me to say, because I said so, probably wasn't going to work, especially with no head coaching experience and nothing behind me. So I didn't think because I told you so was a good answer for players. And I didn't think, because that's how we've always done it. I had a business professor tell me one time that if you ever hear that in a business, you should run fast because that business wasn't going to be around very long. And I've always remembered that, in our program, that because that's how we've always done it, is a bad answer. Doesn't mean that we've been doing it right all those years. So we do need to look at a different way to do things. And so the organization's a big thing that we do and that I try to do. I've got a binder, a 3-ring binder that I keep for every team. It starts in August. It actually starts in July and runs all the way through. And it's got every scrap sheet of paper, everything that I did that year with that team. The notes from this interview will go in there in that binder. I mean, it's literally everything. Practice plans, travel lists, literally everything goes into that binder. And every day after practice, I keep notes on that practice plan. This was good. This was bad. This was too long. That's not long enough. And it essentially becomes a journal, and hey, this team, needs more of this. This team needs less of that. But the very first page in that binder is just a blank sheet of paper that I write to change at the top of the page. And throughout the course of the year, I take notes on things that, I think we should change about our program. Some of those years we've been really successful. And then you go look at the to change list and there's 10 or 12, 15, 20 things to change. And everybody goes like, why would you change anything? You went 58-8 in 2014. Well, the goal is to win a national championship. And we didn't do that. So clearly we didn't achieve that goal. So there's things that we need to change, or we didn't go undefeated. And I know that in baseball, that's a funny thing to say, but hey, there's still things we could have done better. So we want to work on those things. And, over the course of the summer, I go back and look at those to decide, hey man, do we really need to change that about our program? Or was I just aggravated at the time that I wrote it? We need to change this. And then you look back later and you go, no, we don't need to change that. We need to coach that better. We need to do better. That's a bad job of coaching. Those players did exactly what I asked, and they just didn't understand it or they weren't prepared. And if they're not prepared or they don't understand it, then that's just terrible coaching or terrible teaching. And that's my job. So for us, we start the year in August, and that brand new binder gets out and gets started. And we start and we teach everything we do in the classroom. And guys have their own binders, and they come to the class. They come to class basically before we ever even go to the baseball field, and we teach everything from, hey, this is how we play catch, and they take notes, and we demonstrate it, and this is why we do it, and we literally try to. I mean, it's catch day in class. We teach this is how we sack bunt. This is how we drag bunt. This is how we push bunt. This is how we do this. We teach the base running. In the classroom, we literally, so that they don't have to do any of it. They literally, it's take notes. Because when we get to the field, man, I want to practice. I don't want to stand around and talk. And so we work really hard, in the classroom. It takes 7 to 10 days, depending on different things, and how in depth we are, and really how new guys are. It's taken longer at Eastern than it did, at the 4-year school at Oklahoma Wesleyan, because hey man, we're teaching 50% of our team a brand new thing. Our pitchers go down and, they're taught, hey, this is how we do the bands, because I go to a lot of games and I watch a lot of high school kids. I'm there to watch a kid throw, and coach says, hey, go do your bands. And I walk down there because I want to watch. And the kid goes down there and he does some form or fashion of some type of band work. Coach comes down and says, do your bands? Kid says, yes, sir. And it's all I can do not to yell, he didn't do them right. But again, he probably doesn't know how to do them, because, high school coaches are limited too. I get that. They get them. Man, that kid came straight from basketball and is here. So it's not a shot at high school coaches by any stretch. It's just sometimes they haven't been shown. And so we really, because I don't ever want to do anything just to say we did it. If we're not doing it right, then let's don't do it. Same thing that we've done with the technology now. The Rhapsody stuff and different things. I mean, I don't want to have the Rhapsody if we don't know what we're doing with it. It can't just be a paperweight and say well, we got it. Well, what do you do with it? We don't know, but we got it. I think we need to understand what we're doing. And Justin Oney's going above and beyond, on that stuff. And so we teach everything in the classroom. Literally is the first thing we do. And it's in depth. Like I said, it's everything. Offensive signs, defensive signs, pitching signs, literally, like I said, literally everything that you can teach in a classroom, we teach. And during that time, we're getting ready also in the weight room and kind of starting the testing stuff and making sure that we know what that looks like. And before we do any testing, we go in there and, we go over safety stuff. And this is how we lift. And hey, if you've never been in the weight room, that's fine. We're going to make sure you know what you're doing. And we kind of get our testing stuff done. And because we think the weight room is really huge, in the fall, we lift 4 times a week. And we just think that's a missing part that sometimes they don't get from high school. And some of that is, you asked about the throwing harder and things like that. Some of that is we get multi-sport athletes. I love multi-sport athletes. I know that's the great debate, is specialize or don't specialize. And man, I can't say anything about anybody that does specialize, but I also know that we love those multi-sport guys because there's things you learn in other sports and different things. And so we take those guys and sometimes, they gain a lot of weight in our program and everybody goes, oh, what'd you do in the weight room? Or how'd you get him to gain 20 pounds? And we told him to stop running up down the gym floor because he was playing high school basketball or whatever, and we made him eat and we told him to quit running up down the gym floor, things like that. So we do get started in the weight room pretty quick there. And we lift all the way through, August. There's different phases of it, and then we send home a Christmas packet that, some of our guys probably love and some of our guys probably hate, but it's got everything from, throwing plans to lifting plans to eating plans to weight plans. I mean, it's everything, in there. So we lift all the way through. We're currently lifting now. This is, March. We lift 3 times a week during the spring because we want to continue that. So we get started there early. We teach everything in the classroom. We get in the weight room pretty early. And then, once we're allowed to kind of get on the field and get started there, we basically go straight into, all right, here it is. And we actually try to teach everything. I joke, it's 10 days in the classroom, and then generally it takes probably 3 weeks, and we're working through it piece by piece. We don't teach it all in one day, obviously, but piece by piece. And then we go back and review it at the end of the week, what we taught, and then we teach a little bit new the next week, and we go back and review it. And, we kind of break it down into small portions, and the pitchers and catchers maybe are doing something with Coach Oni on their part. And then I've got the infielders that we're working on our part, and then we'll put it all together so that we know where everybody's supposed to be. And, usually within the first 3 weeks of being on the field, I joke with our guys that, all right, man, there it is. That's everything I know about college baseball, and some of them laugh and some of them look at me like, well, that didn't take long. Didn't take you long, Coach Parker. But we literally try to teach it that early, and then we spend the rest of the time trying to perfect it because I've seen other ways of doing that, and where, you are actually into the spring and you're still trying to teach things and, new stuff. And, I think for us, it's always worked better if we, review everything, but we don't have to teach anything new in the spring. That way it's not throwing new stuff at them. Plus now all of a sudden we're putting a jersey on and we're going to play somebody for real. And there's a comfort level there. And so we try to go through that. We practice, every afternoon and get after that. But we do try to teach everything early there. And then from there, we try to make everything as fast as possible, as game-like as possible. And then at the end of the day, whatever we kind of messed up, in practice or in that live set that we were doing or whatever, okay, great. That'll go in the binder and I'll make a note that, hey, we messed this up or whatever. And you know what, tomorrow we may go back to it and try to, hey, yesterday we messed this up. Let's put us back in that situation. Great. That's how we should have handled it. Let's move on. Sometimes we don't worry about it. We just know that, hey, we'll catch it again in the review at the end of the week. But it's a very detailed plan through the fall, with the lifting and the baseball stuff, and the pitchers are throwing. Our fall is busy to try to get everything in. Junior college is different too, because then you throw in, hey, we also get, however many fall games we get. So, you're also taking a break in there to hey, let's go play this game. And then, all right, now let's go back to, something else that we're trying to do, situational hitting drill or whatever it is. But so that's nice to kind of see it, because at the 4-year level, sometimes we didn't get those scrimmages. So, it was almost like practice and dry run, practice and dry run, practice and dry run. You never actually saw it until the spring that, hey, wait a minute, that actually means something. Where now we get to go see it in a game and then come back and go, all right, see, we handled that right. And that's what it looked like. Or, you know what, we didn't handle that right, and that's what it looks like. And now we can fix it from there. Try to be as much game-like as we can. And sure, we have early work with our guys that they come out to every day, an hour before practice. And so we feel like that's a great time for them to go, hey, this is what I need to work on individually that maybe I messed up, whether that's defensively, offensively, whatever it is. But there's the chance to kind of slow the game down, catch your breath. Hey, man, this is where I really work on my skill set. in that individual setting. And then, all right, great, here's the test. Here's practice and here's the test. And man, practice is hard because we want the game to be easy. Offensively and defensively, our whole plan is that we really don't want our guys to be comfortable at practice, because I think there's a lot of times, like in batting practice, like guys want to like take it slow and feel good. And, we joke a lot with our guys that I really don't care when they leave practice if they feel good, because they're not going to feel good in the game. Our thing is, do you want to feel good at practice or do you want to be prepared at the game? And we just think that, like, for us, the answer is let's be prepared in the game. Like, and that's hard at times because players don't always see that. And it's like, man, I'd like to feel good every now and then too. And there is a time for that. And I'm aware of that. But being prepared in the game and knowing in that big moment, man, I've been here and this is way easier than practice. I think there's a comfort level in that once they see it, yeah, okay, I'll take being prepared over feeling good. But in the fall, there's some battles there sometimes when, man, I want to feel good, coach, and leave me alone on this. And it's like, no, I don't want you. I don't care if you feel good. We want you to be prepared.
The way that you mentioned that, I think we see that a lot now. It's like the uncomfortable training, but I'd rather you be prepared than feel good. I think that's a really cool transition from that. And, training harder than what you're going to see in the game, so the game slows down. I really like that too. But does that, so let's go ahead. So love the offseason calendar, really great explanation there. What changes whenever you get to in season, whenever you're playing on the basically throughout the entire weekend?
Really and truly, like, obviously you get back in January and our guys have had that Christmas packet that we've sent home, and it's a bear to put together for our coaches, because again, it's individualized for each player, and it has their position workout from a defensive standpoint. It's got an offensive plan for them over the month of December. This past year it was basically the month of November and December, COVID and us not being able to be around them and things. But it's got a weight plan. It's got a nutrition plan, for those guys that are trying to gain weight or lose weight or maintain weight. And it's literally got everything. So we get them back in January, and then that month of January is really a microcosm of the fall. I mean, it's I tell our guys, we don't have time we've got time to review everything. We don't have time to reteach anything. Review it, yes, but not reteach it. Like if you didn't do your work over the break and all of that, then what, somebody else did, and you're probably going to be left behind. And that may sound unfair at times, but what, that's true in the real world too. It's your job. If you take 2 months off, like somebody else is doing it better, like life's unfair sometimes. So most of our guys come back in great shape. They're ready to go. It's really a condensed version of the fall where we try to review everything again and put them in all those spots. Once we get into kind of where we're at now, the nuts and bolts of we're 28 games in, with basically half our season left to go again. It's kind of the wear and tear part of the season now. We still lift 3 times a week. We're still a believer in that. Our practices are a little shorter, but they're really not any less intense. They're really not any less action packed. There's times that we do have to get off the gas pedal a little bit and take a day off. We try to take Sundays off. We try not to play on Sundays. We try to take Sunday off so I can go to church with my family, and our guys can go to church and if they want to, or be around their families, or basically have that day to know, hey man, I'm off today. And there's a time for that, but when we were at practice, like, we're trying to go, and we just think that in the long run, over the course of that long season, that we're healthier at the end. I know that sounds weird, to keep going, but we do feel like we're healthier. We feel like the arm strength is still there. We feel like the bat speed is still there, where practice may be shorter, and really it's more oriented to them and our opponent, I guess I should say. So on a Monday, we're going to get after it at practice, and we're going to fix things that maybe we messed up that weekend, but we're also going to be looking ahead to, hey, who's our opponent on Tuesday and what's that scouting report look like? But it's always a review. There's really never anything new. It may be, hey, we feel like we can, read a lot of dirt balls. They throw, they got power breaking ball stuff. Okay, great. Well, then we'll set up the machines, and, base running that day will be on dirt ball stuff. So, but it's not teaching anything because we already taught all that. It's just a review, but it's a reminder of like, hey, if we're going to be successful tomorrow, then like this is going to be a big part of it. The dirt ball, or, the stolen base, or, man, we're going to have to really play a little quicker defensively because they got some guys that can really run, or, hey, pitchers, like they've got 50 stolen bases as a team. All right, great. Like, we're going to have to hold runners a little better. We're going to have to vary our times, or, okay, great. Like, but again, it's all a review. It's never something new. It's never, seems like out of the blue, like all of a sudden tomorrow, it's like, hey, we got to hold runners. Well, what a bad deal that is as a coaching staff to put that on our players. We've never talked about holding runners. Well, then all of a sudden tomorrow matters that we hold runners, and now we're splitting their attention from holding runners to throwing strikes. And as a coaching staff, then we're going to be on them about, well, we didn't hold runners very well, or we gave up too many hits because we're up in the zone because we're rushed to the plate. Well, man, we screwed that up in August. Then, it goes back to being prepared. So that way, then, it's the old, what you do in the dark comes to the light. What we did last week, if that still seems big, then we haven't done much today. There's a lot of opinions about, polls, and do you talk about polls? And every coach has a different opinion on that. Do you talk about it or do you not talk about it? When your team has a chance to be ranked or, do whatever. And I'm of the belief that we talk about it, because if not, they're talking about it in the dorms. I was a player on a team that was ranked in the top 5 too, and we talked about it in the dorms all the time. So why not direct their thinking on that stuff? And I know I'm off topic now. You asked about a fall practice or spring practice, and I'm on a poll question. But for us, we talk about it. Like, the poll is going to come out on a Tuesday or whatever. I don't know what day all the polls come out on, but they come out, let's say, on a Tuesday. Well, last week's team is ranked whatever. This week's team hasn't done anything yet. And so, they're always a direct reflection of what you've done in the past. So we try to continue to, and that's hard for guys. It's really hard for young guys because everybody wants to pat them on the back and tell them how great they are. And, man, you guys did this, or you've done that, or, yeah, we did and we've done. Those are all past tense. We're always trying to, what are we going to do? If we take Monday and sit around or Tuesday and look at the polls and look how great we are, or whatever, okay, great. Then somebody else was working and we got beat the next day. So we always want to keep our eye on the next day. And you know what? That goes both ways. If we're really good, congratulations, man. Tomorrow matters. Today's the most important day we got going. And if we were really bad, hey, great, man. Tomorrow matters. For us, the spring is very focused on the next opponent. Yes, what we can do better. Let's fix what we did last week. But let's also be prepared for the next step moving forward there.
And I love getting to hear just the depth of the different things that you guys are doing, especially in season. And you aren't very far off topic, because I think that's a very common thing that happens. But, I have probably neglected not even talking about rankings and things like that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I think that's a great point. I do have some quick hitters before you go, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on some things. Obviously, you are a self-critiquer, you're a self-analyzer. And so what are some different things that you've done lately that you've learned about that are really exciting?
The biggest thing for us, that we've done recently is just all the technology stuff, and trying to make sure that, hey, we remain true to who we are. And I know this is the one that's going to get everybody in trouble, right? You're either pro technology, and that means that the old school guys don't like you, and you're ruining the game, or it's the other way. You're old school, and the technology people think, oh, he's got his head stuck in the sand and he doesn't know anything about it, and we still want to play the old school way. So for us, it's been the biggest thing that probably that I'm most excited about is, hey, I think we're both. And I think you can be both. Like I said, I don't know if that's the everybody wants to hear that. I think everybody agrees with it, but nobody wants to say it, is that you can be old school and you can be new school. Yeah, we want the technology and we want to be that, but we also want to be true to who we are, as a program, and the beliefs that, showing up and playing hard every day, that matters too. And not that technology or new school means that you don't play hard or do anything like that. But the most exciting thing for us is the technology, but making sure that we know how to use it. I just think there's a lot of people that, that do have a lot of technology that maybe don't understand it all. And I don't mean that we do. I hate to say it even like it sounds like that, but I know that, we looked at the Rhapsody stuff for a couple of years before we decided to do it. And my biggest thing was, if we can't make them better with it, then we don't need it. And so for us, though, I think Coach Oni, our pitching guy, has gone through the roof with that, and the ability to take that. And our guys are so computer screen literate. It's just so different than when I say, hey man, you're around that breaking ball, or Coach Oni says you're around that breaking ball, and they just go, okay, and then they throw the same breaking ball, even worse, right? They're even worse around it, and we go like, how'd that feel? And they're like, better. And we're like, well, it's terrible. They have no idea what around it means, or under it, or anything. Where now that we have that wrap, so it's nuts, and their development has gone significantly faster, because now they turn around and we just show them the iPad and say like, hey man, right here, and they can see the spin axis, and they can see all that almost instantaneous during their bullpen. And they're like, oh, like, so you meant I was, and then they throw a better one, and then all of a sudden it clicks. I think as coaches, we got to find ways to reach our players. Just because I understand it, if they don't understand it, then I'm not a good coach. I grew up, my mom was an educator, so I've got some of that in me. And I think the best teachers, whenever the kid's doing everything you ask them to do in the classroom or at the baseball field or whatever, and they're not learning it, the best teachers look around and try to figure out like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm not a good teacher. And I think sometimes bad teachers say like, well, I told them, well, my question is, are we teachers or are we tellers? And so for us, we want to make sure that we are teaching our guys, that they are getting it. And so just because I understand around it and that kid doesn't, then I need to figure out a new way to teach him. And having that iPad right there in the bullpen to turn around and say, here it is. Some of our guys can turn around and look at it, and they're into the numbers and they're all about it. And that's awesome. Some of our guys, we can look at the iPad and we can know it, and then we have to break it down and teach it to them a different way, because that ball spinning on there and talking about spin rate stuff, it might as well be a foreign language. They don't have any idea what we're talking about, and that's okay too. So trying to figure out how we give them what information they need and not paralyzing them with too much information there. We've added synergy, here at Eastern. So, having that ability to, it's been huge just from the recruiting standpoint, for our guys being able to be seen, shooting multiple camera angles and being able to do all of that is great. But also, being able to take our guys' swings. Coach Rees, our hitting guy, like I said, been with me 8 years, and we had 3 out of the last 5 National Players of the Year play for us at Oklahoma Wesleyan. We've had some great players play for us, here at Eastern offensively, and watching him be able to help those guys, now even more so with synergy. And being able to clip out those swings and send it to them, and being able to match that with video, and now hey, let's talk about this, and pitch selection, and counts and different things. And we really try to video everything all the time now. I mean, there's literally cameras running all the time at practice, and we're trying to get it out on Twitter. As you said, you follow us on Twitter, and sometimes we can control that narrative, right? It like you said, it seems like everybody's 95. Like there's not. There's a lot of guys that really pitch at 85 to 88. And some less of that get a ton of outs. But we had the core velocity belts, at Oklahoma Wesleyan, and we didn't get them here right away because I didn't think we were ready for them. And we've since added those over the last year or so. Here we obviously have the driveline stuff and the weighted bats, and we've kind of varied some of that, both on the pitching side and the hitting side that fits our program the best. And the plow hitting balls, I mean, I just kind of all the gadgets that you can use. And, we've tried really hard, like I said, to remain who we are and not become, I think it's a scary world because you can become gadget oriented, right? And you can have bands hooked here and wires hooked over there and gadgets over there and all that, and you can forget that, like, hey, at the end of the day, it's about whether or not you score runs. If it's not getting hits, and not getting hits, but making solid contact, is a big thing that we talk about. If it's not like on the barrel and and we don't have the bat control to be able to, sometimes, I know this is a scary thing to say out on the internet, is sometimes we do have to hit a ground ball. Sometimes that wins a game. Man on third with less than 2 outs and the middle's back. Sometimes it's about beating a 47 hopper in the middle. We're not trying to, because we'd love to hit a rocket head high. But you know what? If the option's hit a head high rocket or, hit a fly ball or a ground ball, if that's not our option's not to hit a line drive, then you know what? We'll pick the ground ball to win a game. but making sure that guys understand, the variances in their swing, and being able to control the bat head enough to be able to know, hey man, the wind's blowing out 30 today. We are in Oklahoma. There's days that we got to get it in the air, and understand when that day is. And we all know there's days the wind blows in 30, and we can't be stubborn and hit a bunch of fly balls on the windy end day and say, well, if the wind had been blowing out, we would have won. Well, the wind was blowing in. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. At some point, we got to figure out how to make those adjustments and how to be able to do that. So just watching the technology on the mound and the technology, that Coach Rees and Coach Oney are able to use is exciting. And I think our guys are excited, and I think it's helped us in recruiting. I think there's a lot of recruits that are excited about coming in to see that part and know that, like, hey man, they're going to get the best version of us they can get. Some of those guys back at Oklahoma Wesleyan, I think, would have really benefited from more cameras or synergy or the Rhapsody stuff. And we coached them as well as we could with what we had. And now we're changing and trying to coach them better. With just being older and more knowledge, but also with some of that technology. And I think that's been huge for us.
Oh, really, really good. And while you're talking about resources, you talked about core velocity belt, some different driveline stuff, synergy. Was there anything else that you would want to recommend while we're on the resource question to any of our coaches, whether it's books or anything like that?
Yeah, just while I'm on, I'll go ahead. Like I said, we're not a paid sponsor by any stretch, but the driveline, people ask all the time, are you guys do the driveline pitching stuff? And I laugh because that can go both ways. My answer is yes, and my answer is no. We use some of the plow balls for warm up stuff. We use the Jaeger bands. We're not a full on. We don't go through the whole driveline throwing plan. But we do mix it in because I think there's certain things that really fit what our program needs, and I think that's tremendous. One of the other things that I didn't mention that has been huge for us is the clean fuego balls. That some of our guys that it's kind of tag teaming technology a little bit is, we noticed that some of our guys kind of really cut their fastball. Well, we wouldn't have necessarily known that without the Rhapsody data to look at and go like, wait a minute, like that's been really cut. And sometimes it's good to have the ability to cut it and do that. And we want to keep it, but there's also times that we want to, let's spin that thing, man, and let's get behind it and see if the velocity can go up a little bit. And so we went that route with the clean Fuego balls, and we've had those guys throwing that, and have seen that ability to now stay behind it a little better, and the velocity's gone up a little bit because of that. I think it's just how it all fits together from a resource, book kind of thing. I try to read and do a lot, and things like that, and sometimes I'm good about it, and sometimes I'm not. But one I read a long time ago, that probably back, I guess, when I was a graduate assistant at Henderson State, I read the book called Mind Gym by, I think, Gary Mack and David Stevens or something like that, and it's just more about the power of the mind and kind of how it's an athletic book, and but it's kind of how you work your mind out and how the power of the mind and it's how it affects your performance. And I think that's been a big one, and I would recommend that to players because sometimes it's not physical. Literally, like, you've got all the physical tools. It's just the 6 inches between your ears are in the way. And can you go out there and compete and do that? And how do you get out of your own way? And how do you trust whenever it's going bad? How do you trust that, hey, what we're doing is right, or what I'm doing is right? Like, I know it's right. I'm not seeing the result yet, but you know what? If I just keep doing what I believe in and what I know to be right, like, I'll see those dividends in the long run. And remember that it is about the long run. It's not about a 1 week stretch. Like 1 week I was bad. Well, maybe I hit a lot of balls right at people, or man, I chased a lot of pitches. Like, okay, well, that doesn't mean your swing's bad. Like, you swung at the wrong pitch. So you got to be able to remember that, like, hey man, my mind can get in the way. Like, no, I just got to swing at better pitches, and I got to be able to remain positive and focused on that. So that book's been one that I just always comes to mind when somebody asks, what about a book? There's a lot of good ones out there. It's just the one that I go back to and go like, hey, the Mind Gym is the one I would tell people about.
Well, Matt, I appreciate your time. And again, thank you so much for joining us today on what we have as a beautiful 72-degree day in Oklahoma, which happens about twice a year. And so I appreciate that. And I really do appreciate your time and your friendship. I will include some different contact details below, your Twitter account and your email. But I would like to just give you the opportunity to just talk to our guests. I'm going to mute myself and kind of mosey out of here. But is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners before you go?
No, man, first of all, I tell you thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about, Eastern baseball and Oklahoma Wesleyan baseball, and just, man, I've been blessed, super lucky to be able to do this. Like I said, that they pay me to coach baseball for a living. My wife, Lindsay, is awesome. Like I said, she's allowed me to do this, when obviously first getting into this job, I certainly don't, I'm not rich now by any stretch, but when I first got into it, I was making, a lot less, and coaches know what I'm going through. And she supported that dream and thought, and now obviously having Cortland and Charlie, our twins at the house, and them not understanding all the time yet, when dad's got to go to work and he's got to go to baseball, and but they come out and cheer like crazy, and I've been lucky that way. So I want to tell those three thank you for allowing me to do this job. And then to listeners and all that, I'm like I said, I was lucky. Small town Arkansas kid that never really wanted to have a real job. Never wanted to do anything other than coach baseball and do that. So, man, if you get the opportunity and you're thinking about making that jump or doing whatever, I would tell you to do it. It's worth it. Man, there's the struggle, part of it when you have to try to make ends meet and things, but it is worth it. The other thing I would say is, like, hey, ask questions and reach out. Sometimes people are nervous about, emailing that coach or this coach or whatever. And, the only thing that, if you're thinking about sending a message, the only thing they can do is not answer it. But you'd be surprised the number of people that'll respond to things and share stuff. And, the baseball community is tremendous. And a lot of who I am today, is literally nothing Matt Parker. I don't think I've ever had an original idea of my own. It's literally a combination of California Baptist University, Garden City Community College, Henderson State University, where I got my master's, and Lyon College, where I played. And, some of that's good, some of that's bad. Some of it's things I've watched other teams do that beat us and thought, man, that worked. I should ask that question. And so, I don't hesitate to ask questions to anybody. If they answer it, great. If they don't answer it, that's fine too. But, it is, it is one big family on that side. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions to anybody, and try to pick it and see what it works, and then make it yours. You can't try to be somebody else. You can't go, well, that's what they said and that's how they do it. And I think that's probably some things that we do as coaches that are bad. As we try to, we get it from somebody and we try to do it just like they did it. Well, I'm not that coach, and I don't have those same players, and I don't have that same program, and I don't have that same. So I got to hear what they said and how they do it, and then I got to modify it to make it fit into my beliefs and my program and things like that. But I do appreciate your the opportunity to come on and talk, for sure.
Thank you for listening to Ahead of the Curve. You can subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, which could include Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, or YouTube. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it on social media to help get the word out. Once again, thank you for joining us.